I'm not a doctor, but I have a PhD in recognizing bullshit when I hear it. I'd like to point out to everyone that we knew early on, as a matter of fact, everyone knew early on, that the people that were at risk of hospitalization and dying of COVID were those that were obese, had diabetes, were over the age of 65. It's time to be honest about the vaccine injured. And we need to stop allowing these COVID-19 vaccines to be given out to children.
Young lady's time has expired.
Wait, I don't know what to think. You're saying this entire time she's not a doctor? She doesn't have her doctorate? You're saying she doesn't have multiple PhDs? Well, I don't know what to think about the world anymore. But what I do know based on that video is that she's very mad about the vaccine injured. She's super worried about them. This was during her questioning of Dr. Peter Marks, the FDA's director of biologics evaluation and research. And she gets really worked up because he acknowledges that many, many lives were saved by the vaccines that she demonizes. Take a look at this.
Dr. Marks, you said a moment ago that the vaccine booster alone saved hundreds of thousands of lives. How many lives have been saved by the COVID-19 vaccine generally?
It's estimated in the United States, about 3.2 million lives, and it's estimated that globally, COVID-19 vaccines have saved over 14 million lives, conservatively.
And we lost more than 1 million people to COVID-19.
That's correct, about 1.1 million. I kept the daily record of the number of people dying, which got up to about 3,300, about a World Trade Center disaster a day.
And I certainly remember that. I remember there was a very long period where here on TDR, we were literally every day updating people on the infection rate, the number of people who were hospitalized, the number of people who were dying. It is a tragedy that should never be forgotten how many people died as a result of the willful mismanagement of the US response to the pandemic. But thankfully, we did get vaccines. And as that doctor pointed out, they did save quite a few lives. Now, they could have saved far more lives if more people had taken the vaccine, but unfortunately, Marjorie Greene and people like her opportunistically used the idea that if they demonize that, they can rally people against the Democrats, against Joe Biden, basically distract from the fact that Donald Trump utterly mismanaged the biggest public health crisis in possibly American history, certainly the last century. And we know coming out of it, it saved millions of lives. We know that unvaccinated people are over 29 times more likely to be hospitalized with COVID. But despite that, she comes out of this experience saying, we need to focus more on the vaccine injured. And you might think, well, what are you talking about? She's not even, by the way, talking about the fact that as with any vaccine, there are some side effects for some people. She's part of that movement that just takes literally any notable person who dies and just attributes that to the fact that they were vaccinated. Whether we know that they were vaccinated or not, vaccinated, whether it had anything to do with it or not, this is how she is attempting to buttress the bizarre anti-scientific ideological movement she was an enthusiastic part of. Brett, what do you think?
Yeah, she does not care about the vaccine injured. She cares about having something to talk about, right? I'm for, like, who would be against helping the vaccine injured? No one. Everyone wants to do that. I love that they go and like relitigate everybody's initial reaction to a plague that's killing 1 million people. Like, yeah, people were cautious. And I guarantee you were cautious. So was your president was trying to be cautious. He was a horrible manager of the situation. If you're mad about a vaccine not working, you should be mad at Donald Trump because it's his vaccine. It all falls apart every way they argue it. It's just real. And it's also like, these are people that don't respect any of the dead. They don't. Or the people who have long COVID, people who are suffering from these in the wake. They want to hold everyone to an impossible standard. So many people in so many conversations do this. They're like, well, there's obviously one simple solution and it's mine and no one would get hurt under mine. And that's just false. Like under her, more people would have died.
Yeah.
If she has the way that she says she always had, which she probably didn't, because she was, when Trump said take the vaccine, I guarantee you she was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, well, look, on your point of nuance, it wasn't that we're either going to have everyone vaccinated or everyone unvaccinated. Instead, we had some people who were. And that number was affected by a lot of things, including what politicians said, including what people in the media said. And people like her, people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and a bunch of other people, some of whom know better, some of whom like Marjorie Greene are physically incapable of knowing better, helped to make that number smaller than it otherwise would have been. And there is a cost in lives to that. And it's one thing when in the moment back then, we were daily fighting the fight in the trenches, trying to get people to take this seriously when unfortunately Republicans were in charge. And they were saying, it's not a big deal. You don't have to worry about it. Oh, also, it's a Chinese bioweapon designed to kill everyone, but don't care about it. Don't do anything. Let's just let people get it. We'll do herd immunity. Oh, and if you take vaccines, they're the ones who are gonna die. We're the purebloods. They're gonna be dropping dead. It was insane when they said it. We're years out of that now. They were dead wrong. And they're not going to ever accept that. They're not going to ever admit that because we live in such partisan times that they don't have to. The fact that we were right is irrelevant, basically. And that is very frustrating considering the cost in human lives. The more than 1 million people who died, the people who still die, by the way, who don't need to, who might have lived, who might not have suffered the debilitating effects of long COVID for the rest of their life if they'd gotten vaccinated and kept up to date on their boosters. But unfortunately, people like Marjorie Greene still have a lot more influence in this world than people like Brett or me. And that is unfortunately the case.
Yeah, I get my influence from Tucker Carlson, who basically said what my policy is with the vaccine injured. If you're gonna run a country, you gotta kill some people.
Yeah. Well, I guess he wants you to be okay with the fact that Donald Trump helped kill a bunch of people. You know, something crime, something architecture.
Marge, the math works out. Taking the vaccine saved more lives than the vaccine injured, according to your definition.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
Sorry, like, and according to Tucker, we got to kill some people, so we're gonna save more than we kill.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.